Hi, my name is Mason Edwards, and I'm the Dungeon Master and creator for Arcane Adventures and the Quest of Desolation. We have covered a lot in the story so far, and today is no different. We have lots of episodes to get through and lots of recounting and recapping to get through as well. So, without further ado, let's jump directly into the Chapter 14 recap. Chapter 14, Treason at Dawn. Returning to Nexus City, and finally back to their home planet of Ilethia, our heroes look forward to a bit of rest. Unfortunately, when they arrive at Dr. Urog's workshop, he hands them a recently received letter from King Winston of Bupilasu, a letter that expresses deep concern for the notion that Kualias is a known Esmine citizen, and he and his companions have been convicted of high treason against Bupilasu. At once, our party catches a train to the capital, where they must stand face to face with the Council of the Nine and the Royal Monarchy of Bupilasu. Each member of this court presents evidence that incriminates their activity. By careful interjection, or somehow just a bit of luck, our heroes do persuade and convince the council to offer them a choice: take their punishment and be executed, or undertake a risky operation by infiltrating Esmine as spies and reporting back on military formations and strategies. Obviously, our crew hopes to evade dying then and there, so they prepare for being foreigners in a country that would kill them without hesitation if they should figure out who the party members really are. Leaving from the capital, Trixie teleports the crew to Finru village, and then they prepare to walk the rest of the way, circumventing the sulfur chasms by heading towards the old North Falls fortress and crossing the Disminster Falls onto enemy land. Our party then hikes 250 miles, taking several days to arrive at a small village of Vilrock, where they immediately start to draw prying eyes, but ultimately gain, at least for now, the accompaniment of one Kaitora Sarnaman, an Autumn Eladrin. Our party purchases 2 horses and a cart and rides for Corpost, where they are able to exchange the Bupilasu currency for Esmine coinage, trying to avert interest from other parties. And with that, they quickly head towards Scarwood Village. On their last night of travel, Atlasia is granted a vision by the Platinum Dragon, and she watches as a band of cloaked individuals trudge through the mucoid viscous matter of hell. One of these individuals, a man in all black, carries a necklace familiar to Atlasia. This band of individuals arrive at jagged mountains with thick metal bars, and the necklace becomes a key that opens this massive cell. Before the vision fades, Atlasia hears the deafening roar and catches but a brief glimpse of a 5-headed chromatic dragon. One individual that she never hoped to see, even in a vision. From there, arriving in Scarwood Village, our heroes search for a blacksmith by the initial M, but the shop seems to be currently closed. In the meantime, they direct their attention to Scarwood Outpost, a small Esmine military fort, and plan a daring recon mission. Nyx and Rhaedrum turn into small creatures of flight and infiltrate the office of Commander Uchino, where a strange note mentions something about asking a General Sanash about Operation Acute Angle. With the successful mission pulled off, our heroes enjoy tomato soup at the Tomato and plan their next steps. The following morning, Rhaedrum spends time at the library and gathers intel on General Sanash, finding that he is a well-renowned general of the Esmine military and often is found at Fort Velcrest to the north, a fortified Esmine stronghold on the northern shores of Esmine at Disminster Depths. The rest of the crew break and enter into the blacksmith shop, searching for an armament of creation. Unfortunately, a series of alarm spells are triggered, and whoever owns this building is coming back, and probably in anger. In haste, our heroes scatter, with Trixie managing to steal a wand from inside the blacksmith's vault before escaping. From there, our party had originally planned to go to Inasia, but they instead divert their plans to make their way towards Fort Velcrest, hoping to gain insight on what acute angle means. They stop at the bustling city, the castle city of Ashadina, where Trixie reports and teleports to Brawl to gather planar tuning forks, and in the interim, Kaitora is accidentally bumped into by a black dragonborn who hands Kai a letter. Sometime later, when the crew is eating lunch, Alencia Rada frantically comes running up to the group, ushering them out of the city, stating that her former colleague, the Shadow Fist, was spotted in Ashadina. Our heroes make absolute haste for the Blue Water Valley to the north of Ashadina, and that's where they stop to set up camp for the evening. It is at this point that Kai opens the letter in private and reads, "Dearest glorious bastards and company, including Alencia and Kaitora, it is with great honor that I have been selected to hunt you down for the extermination to your extinction. Be careful where you sleep, for I am always watching." And then a fireball detonates in the camp. As battle breaks out between heroes and Undershadow's operatives, half of our party is immediately knocked unconscious by a mysterious gas bomb, while the other half face harsh odds against mostly invisible foes. Ultimately, this fight does lead to the narrow escape of the Shadow Fist and the death of Trixie Quickveil. The Shadow Fist promised his quick return, saying this was only round one. Our party then mourns over Trixie's body for some time. And as our heroes mope back to the ruined camp, the destroyed cart, and the slowly recovering group, they hope to pick up the pieces and then continue their quest. But by unexplained means so far, they glance up, and a short woman with red hair smiles at all of them. It's Trixie. Recovering from the ambush by the Shadow Fist, our heroes push on towards a village known as Lowfield, and then to a larger city called Teltal, where they find an old friend, Captain Ephraim. They band together, seemingly after the same information on acute angle, and venture to Tincliffe, where it is revealed that Kaitora is actually an agent of the OTS, the Order of the Ten Sigils. It is also learned that Uragar seems to be slowly dying as his tether to Tazaktik unravels, as does his anchor to this life. While taking souls does seem to prolong his lifespan, it is only a matter of time until he expires permanently, leaving many to wonder how they are going to save him. Inside an OTS base in the small village of Timcliffe, with the careful help from Tylene and Trillin, an old friend of Trixie, the group plots a stealth mission into the heavily guarded Fort Velcrest. Raedrum and Alencia stay behind, and the rest of the group carries on with a thought-out plan. That plan nearly worked out, with Ephraim and Trixie acting as bounty hunters, bringing in Nyx as a traitor. The rest of the group disguised as Esmine troops. When they end up in a face-to-face meeting with General Sanash, everything was going according to plan, until an accidental slip-up on information, which tipped off the general. Or perhaps he already knew they were coming. Who's really to say? Either way, the gig is up, and the cover is blown. In a flash, our heroes are ambushed inside the facility by the Shadow Fist, the woman in black, Nightscale, which turns out to be Gallery, and Liliana Presgalin, the Thronebringer. As war breaks out in the war room, Trixie and Kai quickly snag an important document related to Operation Acute Angle, a major military assault plan, off the table. While everyone fixates on their survival, even though they outnumber their enemies, the odds do not seem to be in their favor. Nor does it seem that the enemies are going all out either, despite the fact Kulias and Urgar deal killing blows after a long fight to Liliana, who punishes or perishes in silence as blood gushes from her neck. Even in death, her twisted smile of hatred never fades. While the Shadow Fist was badly injured, some might even say almost dead, he chugged a healing potion, regrouped, preparing an escape. When Mr. C, one of the heads of the Undershadows, known as Number 1, teleported in, removed the group, the Undershadows operatives, and cast Meteor Swarm. It was only that our crew was saved when Trillin cast Time Stop and teleported our heroes to safety in Timclef, although he never made it out. While some could call this a victory, and while an enemy was eliminated, it came at a heavy cost, as Trillin was unable to escape with the group before the annihilation of the central tower in Fort Belcrest. Grieving from the loss of Trillin, Trixie and the rest of the party are at least able to say that his death wasn't in vain, with documents for Operation Acute Angle in their possession, informing Sigil Caster Tylene of the Timcliffe OTS base. They make several copies of this document and then teleport to Prometheus City to hand the document to King Winston in person. Pleased with their finds and shocked by the military plot against the country of Pupillisu, King Winston revokes the treason charges against them and clears their name. Ephraim actually gets a promotion and is reinstated to the Pupillisu Guard. With that, our party returns to Esmine, to Ashadina, now searching for Armaments of Creation scattered to the land. They make a long journey westward from Ashadina to Scarwood, where they find the human woman, Melikaok, a blacksmith. After mentioning information about a helmet armament of creation, Melikaok takes them to a grassy field, far from civilization, to test them, trying to see if they are truly the ones who deserve this power. In a quick hand-to-hand combat, Melikaok realizes that Urgar is and states that they do not deserve the armament of creation. She informs them that anyone who is unworthy to take the helm and knows of its existence should be eliminated, per instructions from the gods. Attempting to uphold that, Melikaok reveals her true form, shifting to that of an ancient steel dragon. A serious conflict breaks out, and she targets Urgar first, knowing exactly what he is. Just as she is about to kill him, all of time seems to slow down and stop for everyone and everything, except for Urgar. And then, not a second later, time resumes as Urgar returns, changed but truly himself, with Melikaok recognizing that something is different. She hesitates and stops fighting, and admits that maybe, after all, they are worthy. She hands Urgar the armament of creation, which she had just guarded for thousands of years, and she returns them to Scarwood and then to the outskirts of Inasia, before vanishing, in return to her shop. Now, on the outskirts of the great capital city of Esmine, a small cottage in the woods is recognized by Kulias, as he, for the first time in 2 centuries, reunites with his parents. At the same time, Nyx gets a letter from the Shadowfist. And as the night moves on, a scream pierces the silent forest outside, as our party rushes outdoors and Ephraim shines light upon the darkness. The mangled body of a somehow alive Liliana Preskelin radiates anger and fury. Kulias turns to his parents, a tear dropping from his eye as he hears his father say, "That is not my daughter." And he fires an arrow towards his undead sister. Combat breaks out outside the Preskelin cottage residence outside Inasia, as Kulias and the rest of the Glorious Bastards engage with the somehow revived Liliana Preskelin, her eyes burning with anger and hatred and pain as she targets her brother in rage. Joined by several of her assassins, the combat is treacherous as it is tedious, dividing the party to face multiple opponents and still trying to save Kuolias from the wrath of his sister. Narrowly escaping the clutches of death multiple times, Kuolias deals a final arrow to the forehead of his sister, after the rest of the glorious bastards handle all of the other assassins. In silence and some sorrow, Kuolias lets down his bow, accepting what he had to do, what had to be done, but something that he didn't want to, as he turns in for the night. His parents, also coming to terms with the loss of their daughter for good, grab a shovel and go out into the woods to give her at least a proper burial. While most are sleeping, Flint confesses to Ephraim that he is tired of such dangerous work and is tired of his life being on the line day after day. Ephraim, trying to protect the party but also look out for his brother, agrees to help Flint make it back home, and the two depart from outside of this cottage in the middle of the night. The following morning, our party now enters into the city of Inasia proper, seeing the absolutely perfect streets and beautiful architecture of a wealthy city. Nix notices a strange deal being done between two figures in cloaks, and he approaches them, seeking mere guidance and direction to the nearest library. The green-cloaked figure introduces himself as Jean Clevercreek and proceeds to agree to help the party find a library if they help him first. Reluctantly, they agree and are led by Jean into the Undercity, the smog-laden, cavernous space below Inasia's surface, filled with the sick, the poor, the enslaved, the downtrodden, and the quote-unquote criminals that the wealthy don't want on their streets. After seeing how poorly these people are treated, the glorious bastards are quick to anger at such a sight. But they also come to terms with they are not at a point to incite a revolution, at least not yet. Instead, they join John in an operation they call Mischief in the Mines, where they single-handedly disrupt and destroy a mining facility and free almost 100 enslaved peoples. After sowing chaos with a huge dragon, a collapsing building, killing guards, and taking out supports, Jean thanks them for their help and agrees to uphold his end of the bargain, taking them to a secret entrance to a library. Jean then bids them farewell as the party stealthily searches for a pair of golden glasses. They meet Dr. Zandevi Pranesta, a chief librarian at this institution, and learn, after a series of questions and discussions, one might even call it an almost interrogation, that she is actually Jean's boss, and is also one of the individuals that aided in getting Kuolias out of jail those many centuries ago, giving her some form of connection to her and Kuolias' mother, but also identifying herself as a part of the Unseen Soldiers, an organization dedicated to saving the people of Esmine, working to end the war and trying to overthrow the corruption of this country by opposing the government, but quietly. Ultimately, Dr. Pranesta hands Trixie the glasses, called Oculi Anictus, acknowledging that they now have a chance to do more good than she can do where she is at currently. And then she helps them escape Inasia via a private teleportation circle in the back of her office, where they teleport to the OTS base in Timcliff, reuniting with their many companions, and Atlasia receives a letter that instates her as the now High Priestess of the Church of Bahamut in Sunshine City, along with a significant relief effort made to her name to help rebuild the church effort. Finally, with their next task ahead of them, they return to Nexus City, where all that can be heard are the deafening explosions and cannon fire of gunships in the harbor. With a naval battle underway in Nexus City, our heroes seek Dr. Urog and Counselor Rose Zenoris for updates and information, of which they learn that the information they stole from Esmine is actually critical to saving as many of the lives that they did in the port city of Nexus, and I'm sure that could be applied to other places as well. Additionally, they learn that Sunshine City was also under a similar situation of being under siege as of 4 days ago when Counselor Rosanor's last heard from them. Trixie learns more about the book that Spilacris gave her, which proves to be a magical item, and one that is actually capable of getting them directly to Sunshine City through an ability similar to teleport. In Sunshine City, thankfully, the Papillisu Navy seems to successfully have defended the city, and the naval siege has now ended. Atlasia makes an encounter with an old friend, Ko, the Earth Genasi cleric of Bahamut, and settles the last of her father's affairs with an estate officer. Atlasia chooses to sell most of her father's old properties to raise enough funds to begin rebuilding efforts on the Church of Bahamut in Sunshine City and on the ruined Soul Manor and estate, her childhood home. In the meantime, Raedrum and Trixie learn more about the Lightway connection as they continue to search for a way to get to Legertop Island and then ultimately to Mount Celestia without having to go through a war zone. Nyx takes a swim into the depths of the surrounding ocean, coming face to face with Umberlee in her shark avatar and then her true form. In a serious conversation about Nyx's intentions, Umberlee decides that he might be an asset to helping her maintain the natural order of Storm and Sea, gifting him Umberlee's Jade, an Armament of Creation, to help him do what is right and maintain natural order of the material plane. Reconvening, our party discusses next steps when Trixie recalls details about her old mentor living in the Sealy's archipelago at the Igloo, and knows that OTS bases and even safe houses tend to have teleportation circles nearby. Trixie convinces her party and her friends to pay her old mentor a visit. They make their way to Port Pelicar, or the Igloo, as Trixie knows it as codenamed as, and just so happen to run into Captain Mercalion, the handsome, muscular elf and merchant. After a brief reunion, Captain Mercalion and the party set sail for Port Pelicar. When they arrive, Nyx gets off on the wrong foot with Trixie's mentor, as he mistakes Nyx as an attacker and not friend. When that situation, however, does resolve, Trixie assures her mentor, Jolathon Montalid, that everything is fine and that they need to go to his safe house. Trying to avoid prying eyes, Jolathon tells her that she and her party should meet him there separately and that he will take a different route. Everything is fine at the small homestead cottage until Alencia and Jolathon make eye contact before Alencia mutters the word, Father. This causes some revelations and tensions, each of them upset, and the party also upset, as Nyx and Trixie now come off at odds, as neither of them actually knew. As the two of them express their concerns and feelings, they head back inside with Jolathon. Alencia steps back inside, trying to relieve an awkward moment of her trifled past as an Undershadows operative, and Jolathon's ties with the OTS. Of course, as they both meet face to face in the living room, surrounded by the party members of the Glorious Bastards. They can't hold their angry faces for long, as they break a smile and give each other hugs, admitting some major information about Jolathon's capture and Alencia actually being an undercover OTS agent all along, while being planted in the Undershadows. The party takes a moment to process it all, hear some explanations and old family stories, and then they all feast and drink together. The following day, our party uses the teleportation circle at the Igloo to teleport to Brawl, and then Arenovias Castle. This allows them to speak with Daenerys some more, and then use the Lightway connection to go to Legertop Island. There, they speak with Highest Priest Brynfelt Krylum, and are able to open a portal to Mount Celestia by funneling arcane energy into a closed planar gate. Traveling across plains and landing in a pristine garden, they each set eyes on the towering mountain peaks ahead of them. Standing in awe and basking in the radiant light of glory, a voice calls out from near in the garden, Atlasia? And that's all for Chapter 14 of the Quest of Desolation, Treason at Dawn. Thank you again so much for joining us as we have continued this journey, and we're so excited to see where it continues to go as we jump into Chapter 15 soon.